Support for Carolina Business Review provided by Grant Thornton. Operating in more than 100 countries, our tax, audit, and advisory professionals specialize in helping companies unlock their growth potential. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of South Carolina, where healthcare is changing for the better. Find out how at ahealthysc.tv. And by Sunoco, a global manufacturer of consumer and industrial packaging products and provider of packaging services, with more than 300 operations in 35 countries.
The power of art is indisputable. The arts fuel communities that are vibrant, awake, and alive, marked by creativity and innovation. The economic impact of the arts is well documented in dollars and cents, but the benefits are often more subtle. The arts feed the souls of cities, drawing tourists and new businesses and residents alike. And much of this energy resides within cultural institutions like museums and theaters, but it also extends beyond their walls to education and entrepreneurship. With the erosion of public funding and disproportionate pressure on a few philanthropists, is the business model for the arts sustainable? Welcome to the most widely watched source for Carolina business and public policy. I'm Diane Bailey, filling in for Chris William. We are honored to welcome to the program three powerful advocates for the economic impact of the arts. Please stay with us.
Major funding also by Novant Health, bringing you world-class technology, clinicians, and care when and where you need it. The Duke Endowment, a private foundation enriching communities in the Carolinas through higher education, healthcare, rural churches, and children's services. And by Blue Cross and Blue Shield of North Carolina. Who's responsible for rising healthcare costs? Join us and many others in a candid discussion at letstalkcost.com. On this edition of Carolina Business Review, the economic impact of the arts, featuring Dr. Kathleen Jameson from the Mint Museum, Wesley Bloomfield from the Vendue, and Glenda ManWaring of Center Stage SC.
Kathleen, Wesley, and Glenda, thank you so much for being with us today to talk about the economic impact of the arts. The study that the Americans for the Arts periodically does on the economic impact, I've understood that they say for every dollar spent on tickets, 2x goes into the local economy. Glenda, tell us a little bit about what's behind those numbers.
Well, what's important is that in Greenville especially, we have a very vibrant arts community. And our patrons alone, 90% of them will come to the theater, but they'll also go to dinner in Greenville. So on an average, they spend about $25 per person in the city of Greenville on just food alone. Now 30% will have hotel reservations because we have patrons that come from North Carolina and also from Georgia. So it really does impact the whole community when we put on a show.
Right.
Yes.
Particularly relevant for you with the Vendue,
Right.
has a very unique approach to their business model that embeds the arts in a for-profit. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the Vendue was Charleston's first art hotel, and so we have taken sort of, this art and put it into an experience that people are coming into the city and they're there maybe for food. They don't even know that they're coming for art or their history, but now we're kind of providing something that they weren't even seeking, and that's the arts. And so we're kind of putting it into an overall experience and kind of creating an emotional connection to that by using art in the hotel itself and with our guest.
And we actually have a little twist on that. We are partnering with the Le Méridien on a program where we're providing free access to the museum for Le Méridien guests. And so we're doing that both in the hotel but also outside of the hotel as well.
The other thing that where we get to partner with the local artists is that our local visual artists, for each one of our shows, we have a different artist that exhibit their works in our gallery. So we're combining and collaborating and partnering with the visual artists, the performing arts and the visual artists.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think partnering is the most important part of it, really, is just getting everyone together in the community and kind of showing them what it's all about and introducing them to the arts if they're not familiar.
So the economic benefits of the cultural institutions on communities, again, clear, well documented.
Oh, yes.
I want to look inside your organizations about the sustainability of your business model. Unlike other nonprofits, you do have a steady stream of earned income that comes from your ticket sales.
Right.
But we know that's not enough.
Right.
So you're looking to public-private partnerships, corporate sponsors, private philanthropy. Kathleen, I want to start with you. Talk about the pressure on your business model and what you're doing to keep it all in balance.
Well, I think right now for the Mint and for many Charlotte cultural institutions, many of us are still recovering from the downturn and still sort of infilling where we had to cut previously. But I think even more so, Charlotte is in the process of understanding, navigating a new model overall, so not just within each individual organization, but across the landscape. And so with changes to what the Arts and Science Council does here, as well as giving overall, it's just, it is a new model in terms of philanthropy, and particularly needing individuals to step forward and have a more direct connection to organizations and make that kind of investment. So that is all taking place. And then we also, as part of that, I think really have an opportunity for leaders across the community to recognize and advocate for the essential role of the arts alongside sports, education, other initiatives, because that economic impact, as you said, is well documented. And then lastly, I think, a more recent challenge has been just navigating what's been going on with HB2 here in Charlotte. We've had when everything sort of first started to happen, we were really inundated with calls and emails asking what we were going to do, and so just trying to navigate what the museum could do or not. But then since, we have had a number of speakers and donors either suggest they were withdrawing or actually withdrawing support or refusing to come, and that's been difficult for us. We're not seeing that inside the state so much, which makes some sense, but we have a lot of national supporters, and it's absolutely had an impact on the museum.
To the benefit of Charleston and Greenville, no doubt. We talked a little bit about the business model, and key to that, Kathleen has indicated, and the mix of revenue is corporate sponsorship. I'd be interested in the Vendue, which has a clear commitment to the arts as part of its business model.
Absolutely.
Do you also invest in your cultural institutions in Charleston?
We
with
absolutely
sponsorships and in
do.
other ways? Talk more about the value to your business of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to continue seeing, the museums and the galleries succeed that are around us. An example would be Gibbs Museum that just reopened a few weeks ago in Charleston, and we not only participate on their board, but we also invest financially to ensure that those institutions are alive and that they're prospering, and people are able to, visit those throughout many years and years to come. So that's certainly important to us as getting involved and then also contributing as well.
I mean, certainly the vitality of the cultural sector directly impacts your ability to attract guests to your hotel. So Glenda, when you talk with a potential corporate sponsor, a business that's looking to make an investment in your theater, what's the value proposition for them?
Well, there's benefits. What we like to do is always partner. That's one thing. I've been at Center Stage now for 6 years, and in theater terms, seasons. And what my design was is that what goes around comes around, that what you get, you give back. So when we look at our sponsorships, a lot of theaters will have a sponsorship packet, and that is 5 to 10 or whatever bennies or benefits that they have. And we, of course, have that also, but what we do with each one of our sponsors is try to cater the package for their needs. What can we do to support your mission and to get the word out about your product? So then we design our packages that are totally different for each one of our sponsors, because they would, for instance, they might want tickets for all of the shows for their clients if they're a service industry, or they might want to have a company party for their employees, so it's all different. We cater our sponsorship packets for them. But sponsorships are key. Generally, you say about 45% of your revenue for a theater is through ticket sales, okay? So if you look at 45%, then you're going, oh my gosh, well, how do they survive? Well, you survive on foundations, on donations, grants, and those corporate sponsors. So because if we didn't have that, well, then we'd be not, a for-profit business, but we're a nonprofit. So we survive on donations and those other giving entities that help support the theater.
A couple of years ago, Carlos Evans, who's very involved in South Carolina as well as here in Charlotte, talked about the importance of corporate support for the arts and really sort of laid out an equation which said, that philanthropic seed funding brings vibrancy to cities, which improves quality of life, which then helps companies attract not only employees, but helps cities and communities attract great companies, which then, drives economic development and, has this incredible ROI. And so I just think that that's a really important equation that still is very valid.
It's something that was really important to me. I was having a conversation with a new business owner that wanted to move his company to Greenville. And he was saying, my employees are just, they didn't want to come. They didn't have any interest in coming at all until we took a video of everything that Greenville offered. And he said once we showed them that and the art scene and the music and the visual artists and everything that we have in Greenville, then they were really keen on coming. And I told another person, I said, you can have a beautiful city planning, you can have an absolutely beautiful city, but if nothing's happening and there's nothing for them to do, they're not going to come. So that's where all of the visual arts and the performing arts and all the avenues of the artistic talent come into play, because you can meet all of those needs and those desires and interests and passions, and then that boosts the economy for the city.
So the ROI tells the story in really powerful, compelling ways in the business community. And this is Carolina Business Review. However, Kathleen, I bet you can provide some perspective to us about the value of the arts that's not so easily quantifiable.
Sure. Well, I think for a community like Charlotte, I certainly know Greenville is a very fast-growing community. That's likely true also in Charleston, given the Southeast's growth. And there's a lot of evidence coming out that culture is one of the most powerful and, quite frankly, shortest runway means of folks assimilating and acculturating to a community, and also kind of weaving that fabric, particularly across difference. And we're seeing such huge demographic shifts. For example, that soft power of cultural institutions to bridge difference, as just one example, I think it cannot be underestimated.
Glenda, comment on that as it relates to the theater, particularly as a platform.
We have a very unique ability in theater to be able to portray stories, of course. That's what theater is, or objectives, or whatever it is. So we started our Fringe series, which is a new Fringe series. That's a different type of model. And we run that on Tuesdays and Wednesday nights. And we partner with another nonprofit and with their mission. For instance, in the fall we did a show called Gideon's Knot. It was about child bullying. So we were able to partner with another nonprofit and help spread their mission. So we were able to give back to the community and then have forum, talk back sessions, lunch and learn programs. We could take it into the schools, so it's a way for us to give back. It's not necessarily an economic gain, but it certainly is a community gain. And it's very important to help support your community in all its endeavors. So for each one of our shows, we partner with another nonprofit. It's not money exchanged or anything like that, it's mission exchange.
Thank you for that. Wesley, let's go back to the Vendue.
Sure.
And with arts embedded in the DNA of the company culture, provide a bigger context for that as it relates to Charleston, but also what you're seeing on the national scene.
Sure. Well, Charleston has really been growing as far as the arts for the last decade. They certainly had the history, they had the food, and now they've really embraced the arts. We saw that when the hotel reopened in 2014 as an art hotel. We knew that we wanted to really embrace all forms of art, and that's something we certainly have done. And we are noticing that people who maybe were not seeking art galleries or didn't really feel comfortable, maybe they were a little intimidated, honestly, are still coming to the hotel, and now we're introducing them to art, and they're feeling it really becomes a portal, I guess. It's just something that people are like, I feel more comfortable going to a hotel than I do into a gallery or a museum.
Yeah.
And so I think you're seeing that trend everywhere. You're seeing it pop up in restaurants. You're seeing it pop up in microbreweries. I mean, you have art starting to appear everywhere. And I think that's really important for some of these younger demographics that are saying, I don't have the money to go buy a beautiful painting. I can't do, that's kind of the mindset that you have. And I think on a national level, you're starting to see just art introduced in so many different ways outside of the traditional establishments. And so that's where all this partnership comes into play, and just everybody benefiting from that. And you're seeing art districts pop up in every city. You've got music. I mean, I think we all think visual art, but performing arts and music in Nashville and Austin, which has been huge. But Chattanooga's now doing it. I think every city's really trying to figure out what their niche is in the art world, and they're embracing that in all areas of business.
We've been talking about larger cities in our region, but also even rural areas. I mean, you look at Lake City, Donald Moore's art fields, and other examples of art really catalyzing and transforming communities.
It's the experience. As she said, the experience. I really believe that people are looking for an experience. For about 10 to 15 years there, you really saw that people were so much on their phones, and they are still now, but it was movie theaters or it was video games, and especially the millennials and all of that now. And now I think they have found a little hole in their life, and they want to start experiencing things. And nothing evokes passion or emotion more than the arts.
Right.
So.
And they spend money on
Yes,
experiences.
they do. They do, very much so.
You've done a really great job at the Mint Museum with your YAMS program of reaching out to the younger demographics. Talk with us a little bit more about how in your context you've seen those generational differences translate.
Well, we've been very fortunate to have a very active younger support group called the YAMS, the Young Affiliates of the Museum and of the Mint. And they, for example, have just mounted a regional art show, which the Mint used to do years and years ago. I've been wanting to do it, and this young group took the ball and ran with it, and are bringing in all kinds of folks that, quite frankly, we're really eager to see in the museum, but we don't see enough. We also, I'm thinking about, you have a art docent program.
Yes.
So you have someone who is dedicated to providing those art experiences in the hotel. So we've just launched a pretty innovative marketing campaign where we actually, for the Levine Center for the Arts, so the Mint is part of a collective with other museums and a performing arts organization, and part of this marketing campaign is geared towards millennials, and part of that is we have Adam the arts guy, and he is out on the street. You can see him on video. But he is a sort of live person that you can interact with. So it takes away some of that intimidation, and I mean, it's really been fascinating to watch that, and also how that then connects with social media.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Wesley, talk about some of the challenges for your model.
I think that it's really just saying we're this art hotel, and just people maybe still thinking there's still the intimidation factor. I say that they come to the hotel, but there's many options in Charleston, and sometimes they're thinking, I just want the old school, nice place to stay and good service. Don't bother me with all of that, art on the wall. But I think overall, it's really been embraced very well, and I don't see a trend. The trend is that it's all going that way. Since we even opened in 2014, there's been 2 other hotels in Charleston that art hotels are embracing the arts, and so we don't take any profit off the art that sells in the hotel. That goes to the galleries and the artists that are in the community and in regional areas. So we really just open up our walls to them, and hopefully you're seeing that the people coming to the city are having a wonderful experience, spending more money and wanting to come back again. And then the artists and the galleries that are participating and curating the shows in our hotel are also, benefiting as well. So,
Kathleen, can a city be world class without the arts?
No. So I actually have a note, something that I read yesterday. It said, powerful cities have powerful museums. And as y'all were speaking, I was thinking about, someone once also said to me, why do you go to London? You don't go to London, to visit, a corporation. I mean, if you're there on business, you do. But you go to visit the British Museum, you go to Paris to visit the Louvre. One of those intangible things that I didn't mention is that museums are central to creating identity and placemaking for communities, and great communities invest in great culture, which then creates that power that I mentioned.
Glenda, on the horizon, what's your greatest opportunity?
Oh, great. There's so much. Of course, we're always into what is the next thing, what should we do? And we really have a wonderful situation at Center Stage that we have people contacting us weekly about coming and performing at our theater and being associated with Center Stage. And I have a number of New York producers who would like to produce works at our theater. But currently we don't have the space. We are completely maxed out. So now we're looking for an additional space, which is a wonderful, problem and issue to have right now. I have a number of theaters that have been calling me across the country over the past 6 years. Some have had to shut down, and they wanted to know why are we expanding, why are we growing, and trying to help them along, saying, okay, why don't you try this? But the main thing is to know your community, and it really is the collaboration, as you guys have mentioned. We have a wonderful, wonderful Metropolitan Arts Council in Greenville, and they really are tremendous supporters of the arts and bringing them all together and working it with the community so that we all succeed. So it is future growth is wonderful, but of course with growing, there's some growing pains. And then also the economy. You never know what's going to happen, and the arts get hit first. It just does, and it's such a shame. And I'm sure you guys have experienced it also. But when the economy, takes a little downturn, well, then people stop spending the money on the arts, even though the arts make them feel better.
Kathleen, tell us about your opportunity on the horizon.
Oh my gosh, again, I feel like we have so many. We've had a longstanding Latino initiative now for several years, and we are continuing to grow that, and a big part of that is really moving beyond the walls of the museum. And so that's just one example, but we're doing that across the board so that we're reaching much further into the community, which I'm really excited about. And then we're doubling down. We're a 2-site museum, and we're doubling down on our historic facility on Randolph, and really creating a number of just amazing initiatives there centered on fashion, which is a huge draw, and one of our most important collections, ceramics, which is such a powerful force in the Carolinas, and then also a Center for Education.
Comment, please, on the Year of the Woman, briefly.
Oh, well, I mean, what a great example. So our 80th anniversary is in October, and we realized that the museum was founded in 1936 by a group of women. I am the first female president of the museum. We currently have a female board chair, and have had a number over the years.
It will be a wonderful celebration.
that's
you come back
fabulous.
for that.
Yes.
20 seconds to you. What is on the wish list for the Vendue?
Well, we certainly are excited right now because we just have the New York Academy of Art that came in for our exhibit, and they'll be there until October. So the pieces there are incredible, and we are just continuing to have more institutions and bigger artists nationally and internationally notice the hotel and want to feature their work there.
So we've proved it today. Economic vitality of the arts. Join us next week for another conversation. Until then, be well.
Major funding for Carolina Business Review was provided by the Duke Endowment, a private foundation enriching communities in the Carolinas through higher education, healthcare, rural churches, and children's services. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of North Carolina. Who's responsible for rising healthcare costs? Join us and many others in a candid discussion at letstalkcost.com. Grant Thornton. Operating in more than 100 countries, our tax, audit, and advisory professionals specialize in helping companies unlock their growth potential. Novant Health, bringing you world-class technology, clinicians, and care when and where you need it. Sunoco, a global manufacturer of consumer and industrial packaging products and provider of packaging services, with more than 300 operations in 35 countries. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of South Carolina, where healthcare is changing for the better. Find out how at ahealthysc.tv. And by viewers like you. Thank you. Promotional consideration provided by Business North Carolina Magazine. For more information, visit carolinabusinessreview.org.